This is your absolute last opportunity to fill out a bracket for the September Mascot Madness Tournament, tipping off on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex September 4th at 6 p.m. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 85 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show, we're talking about Control, Wreckfest. I'll tell you about the streams happening over on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex, and we'll look forward to this week's new releases. First up on this week's show is the video game Control, made by Remedy Studios, whose games in the past I've played are Alan Wake, which I didn't really get into as like a psychological horror movie that had the interesting distinction of having its chapters broken up into what are episodes of a television show. And for whatever reason, when I saw the credits when I was playing that game, my brain was very much like, okay, you can stop playing now. So I didn't really get that far into it. I'm also not a big horror guy, but I like the kind of like psychological aspect of it. And then the other game I played from Remedy was Quantum Break, which is a game that I didn't have the most fun playing during the gameplay sections, but I thought the story was intriguing enough to kind of pull me through. It's also a fascinating examination of what Microsoft wanted the Xbox One to be originally, which was a bridging gap of games and television shows. And so this game would have long gameplay sections that would then lead into live action filmed like 30 to 45 minute episodes of a television show that did a really good job of explaining backstory and character motivations in a way that made sense. Because if you give that information during the gameplay, it's going to be really boring and monotonous. And my brain is trained during a video game to like, hey, I should be doing something, I should be interacting, I should be moving, I should be going. And moving to that to a television show was really helpful because my brain is more willing to absorb a lot of information just kind of watching something and not feeling like I need to be interactive or noticing that control has been taken away from me. Like, put the controller down, you watch a really well done show that gives helpful and interesting backstory that's well acted and interesting, and then it folds into the game and you go, cool, this is a really interesting experiment. All of this is a very long intro into telling you that I don't actually really like Control all that much. Initially when I saw the game, and I think it was debuted at the E3 last year at Sony's press conference, that's for sure where I saw the first trailer for it, and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. It's like a kind of a mysterious like sci-fi game where the main character lady has a gun. Her name's Jessie. She has this weapon that can turn into different forms of a weapon. So you initially start with a pistol, and then you can get it to change into a shotgun, and then you can get it changed into like a little SMG, and then it can change into an energy weapon. Like, oh, this is interesting. She has powers of like levitation, and she can like grab like one of these Funko Pops behind me and then throw it, but not using her hand, like kind of like Magneto-ish. Hopefully this visual is helpful in understanding. Like, I'm trying to lift your monitor up and throw it at you. I went into this game with quite a bit of anticipation, and I was excited to play it, but over the course of the 3 days that I played, or about 9 to 10 hours somewhere in there, I really began to dislike this game. And it started with day one where I actually thought it was really good, and I liked the interesting hook of hey, you're like this director of this new place, and it has like a very Arkham Asylum vibe where you're in this building and you kind of traverse through different areas, and some of them are blocked by not having high enough access levels. And it's like, okay, cool. So it looks like you're gonna want to backtrack through certain areas, and the story will fill in at some point. You like just show up, you're the director, you're trying to find your brother. That's kind of the hook of this game. And as I played through it, I was like, okay, like this is fine. I played for about 3 hours or so, and it was weird and intriguing in a way that I wasn't expecting. Like at one point I watched like a television thing that had like hand puppets that was like really, really bizarre. And I felt like I was pretty in on this game. But after I turned it off, I was thinking about it, and I was like, there wasn't a lot of information given in that 3 hours. There's like some intriguing elements of it, but the main plot aspect of why the fuck am I the director and where is my brother, none of that was really elaborated on. In fact, you end up spending a bunch of time just doing other shit because the hiss, which is something that didn't really get explained, has taken over, and like you need to go take care of certain areas and figure this stuff out, and it like introduces the mechanics of the game. After the first day of playing, I was thinking about it, and I became a little bit frustrated with the lack of information given. Everybody's holding their cards really, really close to the vest, which makes sense because that's like the hook of the game, is to be mysterious. But at the same time, I didn't get enough information to feel like, man, I really want to keep going, and I didn't seem to enjoy the gameplay all that much to be like, yeah, I want to keep going. So it's this super weird thing where it sits in two spots of like, Like, do I really want to continue playing this game? I also stumbled upon a couple of technical issues. The weirdest of which, I should say, was that I use this pink pig controller, and for whatever reason, and this isn't necessarily the game's fault, but for whatever reason, it disconnects from the Xbox One console pretty frequently. Even though it stays powered on, it just loses connection, so you have to pull the battery pack out and put it back in. I ended up switching to a different controller, and when I switched to a different controller, the Xbox One brought up a menu to ask which profile I was using, and so I clicked on the one that I use to continue playing the game. And for whatever reason, because that happened, it made the game skip and freeze really, really badly. It was an easy fix because all you had to do was dashboard out and relaunch the game, but it was still like kind of like a weird frustration. You probably won't have that problem unless you have this specific issue where your controller either disconnects or the batteries run out, so like just be aware. And I just didn't know if I really wanted to go back to the game. I didn't feel like the hooks were in me that deep. Like the mystery aspect of it was like interesting, but like, it's fine, whatever. And I don't know if I had enough fun with the gameplay to really feel like it made up for one way or the other. Like, the Quantum Break had a more interesting story than it did gameplay wise, and that's what pulled me through the game. There are games that have way more interesting gameplay than it does the story, and that pulls me through because the gameplay is interesting enough. So I went into day 2 a little bit hesitant because I was like, I don't know if I'm really enjoying this all that much. I want to give it a little bit more time. I know the game only runs 10 to 12 hours, somewhere in that game or in that range. So if I can get to the 5-hour mark, that's about halfway. Hopefully, like, there will be a nice big piece of information that'll drop, hit me, and go like, oh sweet, I have to figure out what this is. And it doesn't really do that. I played for another 2 hours on Saturday night, and I sat there and was like, there hasn't really been anything. It finally gets the one drop where you're like, oh, we know where your brother is. And I was like, okay, it's fine, there's something. But that was all immediately negated in day number 3 when it doesn't really do a whole lot with that information. You talk to him for a little bit, and then you need to go search and find a piece of information. And then, of course, when you get to where you're supposed to go and be like, hey, this thing's over in this area of the building, and you go, oh great, I'm finally going to get it. And then they're like, oh, just kidding, it's in a different part of the building. I was like, I'm done. This is dumb. This feels like filler and is really annoying. You're not giving me enough information for me to care about any of this stuff, like, at all. I don't feel like I have any real clear idea of who I am or why the fuck I'm there. I don't care. I've moved past this game. This game does not run well on consoles. It's really, really frustrating. Anytime you load out of an area, it takes like 10 to 15 seconds before it like becomes stable, because if you try to like move the camera, move your character, it like hitches really, really bad. And then the map doesn't load correctly a bunch of times, like way too much for how frequently you need to use it. And the map thing is like, hey, if you didn't need to use the map that much, not that big of a deal. But I constantly was pulling up the map because I didn't like memorize the layout of where everything was. So I was pulling it up to be like, okay, am I going in the right direction? Okay, am I on the correct path? Maybe people are using it less than me. It was really, really frustrating to pull the map up with just a bunch of text of like where rooms are supposed to be, but nothing underneath it to show me where I am in relation to that. And it was just really annoying. And those problems go without even mentioning that there's a specific character that, because they release like a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher, anytime that like too many of those go off at the same time, it just drops the frames in the game to like 1 per second. It's really, really bad. It like locks up the game. And I think this game just needs a little more time in the oven. Like, it doesn't feel like it's quite ready for prime time. I try not to worry too much about like bugs and glitches and frame drops and freezing and stuff like that, because like they're video games. I try to be a little more lenient because typically it's not stuff that I really care all that much about. But this stuff was a lot more common and frustrating and kind of game breaking in a way that I was like, well, I can't really avoid this because this is actually affecting my experience with the game. I don't know. The game over the course of the 10 hours or so I spent with it slid from like mild intrigue and interest, and it slid all the way into this like, I don't care. I don't think it's a particularly bad game. I don't think that it does anything exceptionally well. I think it sits in this valley of like, I don't care. I don't think the gameplay is fun enough to make up for the story that I think is lacking. I don't think the story is interesting enough to make up for the gameplay that I think is lacking. It's a game that I hit a point where I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to play this anymore. I really wanted to push myself to completing this because it is such a story-focused game. But the second it was like, hey, you finally found the thing. Oh, it's just in the other part of the building. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm out. I don't like this. This is you gotta give me something. It's been 9 hours and I barely feel like I understand what's going on. So it sits very firmly in the On a more positive note, we have Wreckfest, which is a game that I am very thoroughly enjoying, even though it has its own technical issues, some of which have seemed to have been ironed out in a patch that was released after the game launched sometime late last week. I initially played this game on Monday because it unlocked at a weird time of like 5 p.m. Pacific. Most of the time games launch at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. They've evened that out over the course of the years. It used to just be every portion of the country got it at midnight local time, but now with the digital revolution, it'll unlock at 12 on one and 9 on the other, and this one happened to be at 5. The reason I bring that up is because the game was not quite there. Like, it really needed this patch to be available on day number 1. So while I was thinking about it, I was like, man, I'm going to talk about Wreckfest. I'm going to talk about how much I like it. But it has all these bugs and glitches and problems. All of them got wiped away with the patch from what I've been able to tell. And to be fair, most of the bugs and glitches that were in the game were in the menus, and it didn't really affect the gameplay at all, with the exception of the fact that the game wouldn't launch if you had any USB devices plugged into your console. So I play on an Xbox One S. I have a Astro A50 headset base plugged into it, an external hard drive, and a micro USB charging cable for my controller. I have 3 devices plugged into it. I kept trying to launch the game and it just wouldn't, so I went over to the Bugbear Entertainment Twitter there, who's developing the game, and they're like, hey, there seems to be a problem where the game won't launch if any of the devices are plugged in. So I moved the game from the external hard drive to the internal hard drive, and it loaded up pretty well. Once the game finally launched, though, it did have some odds and ends here and there. There was a little bit of like a texture that didn't quite load in correctly, and it left a little bit of residue during like a checkerboard residue during the menu section. When you ended the race, there were a bunch of different problems where like the character body would be like in the pose it's supposed to be in, but if it moved, like part of the waist would stay where it was, so like the chest would move over and then it would just be like a weird like curvature over here. Or there was one time where somebody raised his arm and his hand was just gone. It was stuck where it originally was. And it was a bunch of like weird silly stuff that didn't affect the game, but it was just like, it's kind of like just a couple of weird oddities here and there. Fortunately, all of that seems to have been taken care of with the patch that, like I said, came out late last week. And thankfully, again, it didn't affect the gameplay. And the game is a lot of fun. It's exactly what you want from this type of game, which is a racing destruction derby type video game. It's from the same people who made the original Flatout and Flatout 2. One of those, I believe it's the first Flatout, I actually played randomly on stream several months back. I don't think this game is perfect by any means. It has some problems even after the patch. There is a severe rubber banding, and that seems to have come from their old games, the Flatout series. And what that means is essentially no matter how far you get ahead, the rest of the cars, the computer-controlled cars, will always catch up, and vice versa. It's not as big of a deal early on in this game because it is fun, because that's the type of game that this game wants to be, is like constant like rubbing and banging and crashing racing. Like you always want to be in the thick of it, because racing games or any sort of competitive sport are really boring if somebody is way better than everybody else on the field. It's like, okay, cool, they're going to win by 6 lengths, and it wasn't ever a competition. You always want that close, interesting race or sporting event. What this does do is it makes it feel kind of useless to upgrade your car. And this game has a nice loop to it where when you rank up, you get parts for your car that you can upgrade, and you can go in and you can upgrade your car. Theoretically, if you upgrade your car and you were to maybe go replay old events, you should be able to win pretty easily, or give yourself an advantage in events coming up to make it easier for you to get first place and to get challenges done. We'll talk about the challenges here in a minute. But because there's rubber banding to it, it doesn't really feel like it's much of a necessity to upgrade your car. So it feels like that kind of butts heads with itself a little bit. Where on the one hand, like, cool, it's awesome to have a faster car. It never gives you any sort of advantage. The game does feel very fully featured. It has both a career mode and a pretty nice multiplayer suite. We'll talk about the career mode first. You have all kinds of different events that you can do, and it's everything from like banger races, which are little short tracks that have like 16 to 24 cars and a lot of destruction on it. In each race, you get points for your finishing position between 0 and 100 points, sometimes 200 depending on the event. It's weird. I don't understand exactly where the what the difference is between why some races have 100 points and other races have 200 points. It seems like the destruction derbies have the 200 points, but it's weird because their races that have 200 points. I'm getting in a little bit into the weeds, but each of the races in career mode have challenges, which are little stars, and the only reason to get these stars for the challenges is for an achievement, so you don't actually have to get them. They don't really do anything other than give you progress towards an achievement, so you can completely ignore them, or you can go for them for a fun extra challenge. The really cool thing about the challenge aspect is, if you, let's say you finish third place, but you want to get first, but let's say you get the challenge, which is spin 3 cars out, for example. As long as you continue through back to the main screen or back to the career mode screen, that challenge will stay done. And that's really awesome, because it would really suck to have to get first place and get 3 spinouts. Like, being able to divide and conquer is very helpful. The more points you get, the closer you get to the championship once you have the overall number of points you need. I think the first one's like 1,000, the second one's 1,500, 1,750, something like that. And then the third one, the one that I'm currently in, is 2,200. Once you get that, you can unlock the next area. The races get a little more complex. They get a little longer, and they get a little bit harder. I put harder in air quotes because it doesn't actually feel like the races themselves are more difficult. It just feels like the cars are more singularly focused on taking you out, and that makes the game actually quite frustrating. No matter how well you do, there's always going to be someone gunning for you. And even when it doesn't make like logical sense, they're still going to go for you. Like, if there's a turn and it's coming up and you're supposed to turn left, and it's not even a sharp left turn, it's like a gradual left turn. They're just either going straight as you're turning left, or you are turning left and they're turning right into you and trying to drive you into the wall. And it's super frustrating. And it's kind of where the rubber banding aspect of it becomes the most frustrating. You can run a perfect race and feel like you are kicking all kinds of ass. You're 2 or 3 seconds ahead of the next car. All of a sudden, because the rubber banding, the way it works is the farther it's stretched out, then they'll bring everybody back in to make the races more competitive. They'll just gain position on you for no reason. You're doing the exact same thing you've been doing for 3 or 4 laps. Your speed is the same, your turning is the same, and they just catch up. And it means that no matter how perfect a race you run, somebody can come in and wreck it in one corner, and that is really frustrating. Because, like, I was doing like a 6-lap race the other day, and I ran through like 5 laps really perfectly, got slightly bumped, and then because of the way the track was designed, I like got pushed too far over to the side and like started rolling down a hill. And it was like, well, there you go, there's the race. That's the whole race. It's not even like I can fight for a podium spot. It's everyone is there, and you don't just lose 1 or 2 positions. I lost like 16 positions, and it is so frustrating to have a race thrown away that you've been doing so well at kind of come down to one piece of contact that probably shouldn't have been there, because my car was upgraded, and then because the game decided that it needed to rubber band everybody back together, they go, well, guess you just get to try again. All that being said, though, I am enjoying the career mode. I think it has a good variety of races. It has demolition derbies. It has like series long races of like 6 or even 8 races. It has what would you call it? Like tournament races, where it has 3 stages, and all you have to do is get into the top half and you move on. For whatever reason, when I was playing on Sunday night, that one crashed a couple of times. Like, the further I got into the game, that specific event type got more and more unstable. So, like, it ran perfectly fine in the first one. In the second one, it took a little bit of time to load back out into the into the quote unquote like the single player lobby or whatever to go on to the next round. And then the third night when I was playing, it just crashed out the game entirely. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird. If you're kind of bored with doing the career mode, or you're like me and you're irritated and you want to snap a controller over your leg because some jerk came in and took you out in one corner and you was like, well, there goes a whole race, and you want to rage, you can take your talents to online and you can try your luck there. Online is the place I think this game needs the most work, and it starts with the amount of time you have to spend in loading screens and lobbies. Typically, you're going to be spending a minute or two waiting for the game to load, to spend another minute or about 90 seconds waiting for everyone to ready their cars up. Even in this particular menu system, if you're trying to change cars, it takes like 5 seconds for that menu option to become available. Then you go in, and it takes a little bit to even get that stuff going. Sometimes the changes don't even stick, so there were 2 or 3 times I got kicked because I was using an incorrect car, even though I was very clearly smashing the A button to be like, just let me pick the hammerhead. I want to pick the hammerhead. I don't want to use the bus because I don't want to get kicked out of this lobby because there's like 14 people in it and it sounds really, really good. Oh, I just want to play. And that's really annoying because then if you get kicked out of the lobby, you have to go back into a lobby, which means you have to hope that they're either done with or almost done with a race, to sit in another loading screen, to sit for another 90 seconds, to hopefully be able to change your car. And it takes a lot of time, and then you don't even get that much experience out of the whole situation. You're routinely getting like a quarter of the experience you would get in single player in the multiplayer thing. So like if you're getting 5,000 experience in a single player event, you're getting like 1,250 maybe in a multiplayer event, and that's really annoying because the ratio of experience to time spent just isn't equal. And it's really annoying where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not making much progress at all. And it's frustrating because the game actually does have a really good loop of when you rank up, you get new parts. When you get new parts, you upgrade your car, do better in the multiplayer stuff, and so on and so forth. Like that's exactly what you want in this type of game, and it sucks that it's so little XP is given in that. There also isn't enough punishment for players who just immediately turn around and start crashing into other players, like going backwards on the track. Like, it's fun and funny to be like a mincy little prick about it, because I did it a couple of times, but it still is one of those things where it feels like the game should try and correct them a little bit more. Like, you shouldn't be able to just select a bus and just run rampant throughout the whole track. With all of that being said, the game is still really fun. The multiplayer aspect is great. It's very destructive and chaotic in a way that the single player stuff isn't necessarily all the time, and I really like it, and that's why these frustrations are a little bit more of like a highlight of like, man, these loading times suck and the lobby times are a little bit long, and it's frustrating that you don't get enough experience, because I would like to spend more time in the multiplayer because it is so much fun. For the most part, the game does run well both online and offline. I did run into some lag online, but that was kind of just par for the course, where the cars just weren't quite where they needed to be and you slid around a bunch and it would stutter stop and do that. But brand new online game, that's a little bit more forgivable. From the offline perspective, it does run really well. There was one type of event where I put 24 buses on a figure 8 track, and that was where the game ran the worst, because I think it's just too many cars and too much destruction happening at once, and it really brought the game to a slowdown. But because that is an optional or a custom event, that's not something that you are necessarily going to encounter. But because I like buses, of course I put 24 buses on a figure 8 track just to see what would happen. It killed the game. Not like all the way out like Dashboard killed it, but like really dropped the frames. Like noticeably, it was like, oh boy, like like you can tell. Like, you're coming around a corner and all of a sudden you really start to slow down. You're like, well, guess there was a crash in the intersection of the figure 8. The game has a lot of stuff to do. The crashing is absolutely spectacular. Like, it's a just glorious, like, why is this car still flipping down the track sort of crash. The cars are silly. They're over the top. They have a couch car that you can use. You can drive a lawnmower. It's a lot of fun. They've announced some new cars coming out with the DLC, and I guess one of them is a porta potty. So there you go. Like, they have stuff coming out for the game. Hopefully they can get out a couple of patches to maybe cut down on the load times a little bit. Hopefully they'll go in and cut down the online multiplayer wait times from 90 seconds down to 60 seconds. If they can get that infrastructure to work a little bit better, changing your car, making that take a little bit less time, that would make things easier. Wreckfest is a game that I'm having a tremendous amount of fun with. I am very thoroughly enjoying it. Hopefully they can get out some patches, put in a little TLC to it, and tweak some things to make it an even better experience. It's such a great starting point and feels like the perfect game for what it wants to be, which is this like highly destructive, silly, crazy racing game. And I'm really, really happy to have it on consoles. I've been watching gameplay videos of it on PC, just waiting for it to be here, and for it to be at the point is both like really great and kind of somewhat disappointing in some aspects. But again, little TLC, a couple patches here and there can really make this a great game. Finally, on this week's show, we'll take a look at this week's new releases. Gears 5 is the only game that's coming out. It's available, the Ultimate Edition is available on Friday, and I believe that's the version that's included in Xbox Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you can play 4 days early. The general release is on September 10th. There's nothing in theaters, and the best movie of the year is on Blu-ray in Booksmart. I highly encourage people to watch it. I love it, and I can't wait to go buy it. September Mascot Madness is finally here, and that's this week's streams. The streams are going to be crazy. Starting on September 4th, that's Wednesday at 6 p.m. That's going to tip off the tournament. There are going to be 8 games a session, and that'll work on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All of those will start at 6 p.m. On Saturday and Sunday, we're going to double up. I'm going to do a morning session from 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m. or so, or 10 a.m. until it ends, essentially. And then I'm shooting for about 5 o'clock on the afternoon session, so it'll run from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock Pacific. That'll be both on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll wrap everything up with a special extra fantastical championship stream on Monday at 6 p.m. So head on over to challenge.com/septmascotmadness if you want to fill out a bracket, and then go on over to twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex, and you can follow along and watch all the games. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very, very excited for it. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, scroll on down and hit that subscribe button. If you like the content enough and you want to interact with me, you can scroll on down a little bit more and hit that comment section up with your thoughts on Wreckfest or of Control. Check out the streams this week happening all over the place on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex. Your best option is to go over there and hit that follow button, and you'll get a little email notification that says Sean went live, and then whatever dumb tagline I put, I think it's like ready to slam a jamma, whatever, you'll be notified that the stream is live, and you can follow along with all the brackets. Go over to challenge.com/septmascotmadness and you can fill those out. And be sure to check back every week for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.